This is not a motivational video. Also from the title, you might guess that I might have some challenges when it comes down to wanting to be in this kind of good state all the time. I want to just make a case about our inability to sit with challenges. I'm going through some challenging period right now. I would say it's more like an identity crisis. On this channel for almost 2 years, I think, I talked about personal growth, human transformation, mindset, identity, everything that has to do with who we become, right? Who we want to become in the future, and how do we embody those traits? How we stay on pursuit of achieving those kind of qualities that we are happy with embodying in the future, right? And inevitably, by actually going through my own deep transformation in the past years, all my attention, most of my attention and energy and time was steered towards me understanding myself better, and as a proxy, understanding everyone around me better. And when I say understanding everyone around me, I mean that whenever I'm facing challenges and difficulties, I realize that they are not necessarily mine as such. Challenges, problems, hardship in general is part of the human condition. And that helped me build compassion first towards myself, because I realized that it's nothing wrong with me as such. Everyone goes through this kind of challenges and situations in life. So I started to become more compassionate towards people who are not able to present themselves with more love and more appreciation and more gratitude towards life. And despite going through this and knowing this theory, I'm now going through another maybe step in my growth. And I'm in a phase where this kind of compassion and natural appreciation of whatever happens to me, this is not something that I can deal with intuitively anymore. And it's because somehow the bedrock and the foundation of who I perceive myself being today is somehow being challenged, is somehow disrupted. I am being forced in this period to make a decision in terms of how I want to grow professionally, towards which kind of career do I want to develop, what do I want to build next. You know, the kind of life by design that I talked about a lot. Actually going through this and experiencing the hardship of having to make your choices and stick by them and assume the implications of whatever choices you have made, it's a very difficult thing to do. And I want to talk a bit about that. Because going through this kind of shift in identity, because of who you've become at this point, it's a different kind of test of resolve and resilience, and bigger and more difficult than anything that I've ever experienced. Me, currently, my current position as an engineer, as a technical person, is just something that I don't easily identify with anymore. I just have this natural calling, this, call it mission, that I feel I am on today, which is to become a transformational coach. I want to build this transformational coaching practice. And this forces different decisions. This forces ultimately different ways of interacting in the world. This forces different contexts, different working environments. different friends, different communities. It's such a disruption in terms of how my day-to-day existed up to recently and how it will likely develop in the future, that you cannot just rely on theory. And in this video, I just want to give my best understanding, to share my best understanding on how to navigate such challenging periods. I discussed in the last clip about surrendering or letting go. And the process here is similar. But I want to circle around a concept that stays with me these days a lot, which is faith. So faith is trust in the unseen. It's borrowing courage from divinity, if you want. It's the ability to stay truthful to your values and allow a helping hand, which is invisible, to guide you towards whatever destination you have chosen for yourself. And there is such a thing as a test of faith. I generally believe that tests of faith are required in this pursuit of a purposeful goal, because you have to prove to yourself that indeed you want that, and also that you're worthy of receiving the gift of owning those kind of traits that your future self will inevitably have, right? And live by naturally. So this growth path, this journey of self-development, of self-actualization, this is difficult by design in a way, because it forces a becoming. It forces a different kind of rendering of the reality, a different kind of understanding how things happen and why they happen, a different kind of default perspective on hardship. And talking about it and actually going through it, there are completely different things. I feel that me talking about it for 1.5 years after going through a challenging period of my life gave me the priming and the preparation for having the best chances today to actually implement that in as real time as possible. Tests of faith are meant to test your faith, which means that they are meant to be hard. Hardship, when it comes, it's contextualized to your ability to deal with it at that level of your evolution or that level of consciousness that you have. Tests that have come in the past are of no good use today when you are in a different stage in your evolution. So me dealing with this kind of complex working situation in which I don't know how should I commit myself and my efforts, knowing what I actually value most, knowing the kind of service that I can offer to the world, and the context in which I can offer that. Navigating this period is the kind of test of faith that I have to own. And I have to own it, not in a disruptive way for everyone else, because that would be, of course, a shortcut. That would be an easy way out of it. A real test of faith is keeping me and myself and staying put, staying composed, dealing with everything I have to deal, being optimistic about the future, being a good presence for my family and for my kids, thinking and believing in the destination, even if it's not manifested yet, and having this real faith in the unavoidable ultimately. Because this is what real test of faith is. forcing you to come to peace with not knowing exactly how tomorrow will look like, and be perfectly okay with that. If we would always know exactly how everything unfolds, then faith is a concept that is irrelevant. If we would know every single day how everything unfolds, life would also be quite bland, quite sad. Ultimately, given a long enough time horizon, there would be no inflection point, there would be no adventure, there would be no premise for growth, there would be no challenges, there would be no difficulties, there would be no premise for actually evolving towards something else, because you would anticipate always what will come, and you are always able to deal with what comes. But when you don't know how you will deal with what comes, you only get to rely on the belief, the unwavering faith and belief in yourself and in your ability to deal with it, not because you are somehow better than everyone else, but because you cannot be left alone in that confusion by that entity which is intangible, by divinity, right? Who knows best what you need in that moment and who is there for you to shape every step ahead of you. And that's not wishful thinking, that's not hope, that's not alleviating your responsibility, that's not forcing some sort of a near-realistic optimism. Faith is genuinely believing that whatever you are being confronted with, whatever challenges come your way, they're an active part of your journey. They are actively meant to force you into a learning mode that you need to stay in for a certain amount of time in order to be able to embody those traits that are being tested at that point, so they become a natural personality trait, if you want, of that version of yourself that you aspire to become. I genuinely believe that. And again, this is not a motivational video, because the struggle is real. Hardship is real. When it comes, it's hard, right? For everyone. But I want to tell you that the only thing you have to really know is that you have the resources to go through it. The very fact that you live is proof in itself that you can go through it. And not forcing anything different, not forcing a different outcome, not get allured and convinced by your mind-made narrative that it has to be different, that it should have been different, that it must be different, and go into that rabbit hole that compounds on itself and gives you misery as a byproduct. Don't force that. Allow yourself to be with however the moment presents itself. Embrace it, own it, respect it, honor it even, because that's a gift if you choose to see it that way. Einstein said that the most important decision we have to make in our lives is to choose whether we live in a friendly or a hostile universe. To choose to live in a friendly universe when it feels like the universe is hostile is the ultimate superpower. It's very hard to do it, but you can do it. And you can do it by constantly reinforcing for yourself the fact that this is a gift, that what you're going through is a gift, and you need to go through it. You need to go through this test in order to prove your faith towards yourself and your divinity, and prove that you are worthy of the destination that you claim you want. Because if you just claim it, and if it's just wishful thinking, and you're not willing to actually do the things that take you there, that force your becoming to that point and to that degree, then release yourself from the desire itself. Own your path. Own the destination and own the path that takes you there. If the destination is important enough to you, you will own the path and you will be thankful for the gift. Happy exploration.